The grand hall of contemplation hovered above the crystalline plains of Virex, the Ixari capital world. From the outside, it looked serene, a perfect orb of light suspended in a geometric lattice of floating stone monoliths. Inside, however, the chamber seethed with tension. Representatives of over 1,000 worlds watched in silence as the ancient figure of Archon Viral floated to the center of the convocation dais. His elongated form shimmered with iridescent scales, and 6 eyes blinked independently, focusing on different sectors of the amphitheater. Behind him, holographic screens flickered to life, showing scenes of carnage. The Battle of Stalingrad, the atomic flash over Hiroshima, the Cambodian killing fields, the firebombing of Dresden, drone strikes, civil wars, chemical weapons. This, Viral said, his voice carried by empathic harmonics across the chamber, is Earth. Class, 5 Death World. Species, Homo sapiens. Status, ascending. Projected spaceflight capability, already achieved. FTL threshold, within 50 solar cycles. Evaluation, pending. A murmur rippled through the gathered delegates. The Ixari collective prided itself on its vast and mostly peaceful galactic order, enforced not through war, but preemption, the surgical sterilization of species deemed too dangerous to integrate. The Ixari called it harmonization. Others called it extermination. A spherical entity floated up beside Viral. Its voice was sharp and metallic, the voice of the collective AI. Begin evaluation protocol, it intoned. Images spun across the air. Burning jungles, seas littered with plastic islands, mass extinctions of native species by human hands. Humans, the AI continued, are cognitively advanced, socially cooperative within in-groups, but dangerously tribal. Evidence of persistent violent conflict over abstract concepts, prone to genocide, slavery, and ecological destruction. Dominant traits, aggression, ingenuity, adaptability. A thin, reed-like delegate from the Alex Enclave raised a translucent hand. Have they achieved galactic transmission awareness? They have received rogue broadcasts, some crude attempts to send signals, all intercepted and redirected, the AI said. They are unaware of the collective's existence. Archon Viral spread his hands. And so, we face the same question we have faced with the Throx, the Vunari, and the Delcon. Do we wait and risk them becoming another Karath rebellion? Or do we cleanse their potential before they become a virus in the stellar lattice? A ripple of discomfort passed through the chamber. The memory of the Karath still festered in the collective's databanks, an insectoid race allowed to develop unchecked, only to ignite a genocidal war that cost 1 billion lives. The delegate from the aquatic world of Hryni pulsed blue in disagreement. But humans are fractured, divided. Their violence is as much against themselves as others. Perhaps time will temper them. Viral gestured. Observe. More footage. Civilian executions. Cyberbullying leading to suicide. Extremist militias. Rogue artificial intelligences. Children in cages. Scientists warning of climate collapse ignored by their leaders. They do not temper, Viral said. They escalate. But their art, said a crystalline entity from the archive world of Svan, flashing prisms of Mozart and Maya Angelou, Da Vinci and Mandela. They create beauty, compassion, literature, poetry. Outliers, the AI countered. Mathematically insignificant against total behavioral trend. Art does not excuse capacity for extinction-level aggression. Archon Viral motioned again, and a final series of projections shimmered to life. This time, not past atrocities. Simulations. The collective had run thousands of models. First contact scenarios, integration attempts, containment policies. Every outcome within 300 years ended in the same fate. War, catastrophic in scale, with humanity exploiting loopholes, reverse engineering alien tech, and eventually turning the collective's own infrastructure against itself. They are not just violent, Viral concluded. They are clever in their violence. Adaptive. They do not stop. They do not forget. If they feel threatened, they do not bow. They burn. And they teach their children how to burn better. A silence fell like a neutron blanket across the chamber. The voting began. One by one, worlds gave their judgment. Holograms of their planetary crests flickered red or green. Red for sterilization, green for observation. The first 100 were red, then 2 green, then 30 red, another green. As the votes accumulated, the outcome became clear. Even the most liberal voices faltered in the face of the simulations. Humanity, judged by its own history and potential, was a liability. The final tally, 94% red. The AI's voice cut across the void. Verdict: Earth to be sterilized. Operation Soft Dawn authorized. Fleet mobilization within 5 rotation cycles. Voral bowed his head, not in triumph, but in regret. I mourn them, he said quietly, but peace demands hard choices. The lights dimmed, the chamber emptied. Above them, in the void of space, thousands of sterilization drones powered up, dark, silent, and falling toward a little blue world whose inhabitants stared at the stars, dreaming of reaching them, unaware that the stars had already judged them and found them wanting. The sky over Nairobi cracked open at 3:12 a.m. A silent line of fire etched itself across the upper atmosphere, trailing molten streaks like the claws of a god tearing through the firmament. Birds scattered in terror. Surveillance satellites blinked out one by one. In the next 3 minutes, the same arc of destruction was seen over Delhi, Berlin, Chicago, and Sao Paulo. The Iksari called it Operation Soft Dawn, but for humanity, it was the beginning of extinction hour. Dr. Amina K. jolted awake in her bunk, the walls of the Antarctic research base trembling as if the ice itself were growling. Sirens wailed. Lights blinked red. For a moment, she thought it was another earthquake. Antarctica was known for its tectonic groans. But then the ground shook again, and the emergency broadcast cut in. Global communication blackout. Cities offline. Unknown orbital strike confirmed. Repeat. This is not a drill. She grabbed her boots, pulled on a thermal coat, and ran. Outside, the normally silent polar sky was burning. Outside, the normally silent polar sky was burning. Bright orange plumes danced on the horizon like a nuclear sunrise. A low, rumbling hum filled the air, a sound that wasn't thunder or tectonics, but something far worse, something deliberate. Her team, scientists from 8 countries, were gathered by the entrance to the comm station, staring in disbelief. "Is that the Northern Lights?" muttered Ethan, a climatologist from New Zealand. "No," Amina whispered. "That's orbital debris re-entering the atmosphere." They turned to the main monitor in the comm center. What little data remained was garbled, but one thing was clear. Major cities were going dark. First, power grids, then internet nodes, then radio silence. London, offline. Beijing, offline. New York, offline. Cape Town, Cairo, Mumbai, Paris, Seoul, all gone dark. Satellite telemetry showed thousands of thin, metallic rods piercing Earth's upper atmosphere at terminal velocity, each one non-explosive but delivering the kinetic energy of a small nuke. The Iksari believed in precise, clean extermination, no lingering radiation, no scorched ecosystems, just pure, brutal finality. Kinetic bombardment, Amina said aloud. Rods from God. What if someone asked? It's what DARPA theorized decades ago. Dropping tungsten rods from orbit. Impact velocity turns them into instant city killers. No warning, no defense. Someone behind her vomited. Another fell to their knees. Who's doing this? Ethan asked, voice trembling. China? The US? Russia? No, Amina said. This isn't human. They all turned to look at her. Look at the pattern, she said, pointing to the map. It's not strategic, not political. It's surgical. No nuclear silos, no military bases. They're targeting population density. Then who? I don't know, she said. But they want us gone. By the end of the day, 2 billion were dead. Skyscrapers flattened. Governments vaporized. The global internet collapsed in less than 6 hours. Satellites blinked out like fireflies under a boot. The survivors had no time to fight back. No warning, no declaration, no enemy to see. Just fire, impact, silence. Some suspected it was an AI uprising. Others blamed aliens. Religious sects proclaimed Judgment Day. The truth was worse than all three. It was an extermination. Amina led her remaining team deeper into the base, into a sealed research vault half buried beneath the Antarctic ice shelf. Originally built for a multinational deep Earth neutrino observation project, it had enough supplies to last 6 months, and most importantly, it was shielded from orbital scans. That's when they discovered the anomaly. It began with a power spike in one of the buried geothermal sensors, a tremor deep beneath the glacial bedrock. At first, they assumed a fissure, but when Amina reviewed the seismic data, it showed symmetry, structured resonance. Nature didn't make perfect geometric patterns underground. Something else did. Amina rerouted the scanning drones and sent them through a newly opened ice tunnel. What they found stunned her. A metallic surface, smooth as obsidian, embedded beneath 4 kilometers of ancient ice. It pulsed with faint energy, a rhythmic heartbeat that didn't match anything known on Earth. They had found something not human. 3 days later, Amina descended into the shaft herself, the drones clearing the way. The walls of the tunnel sparkled with crushed crystallized oxygen and streaks of ancient carbon. When she reached the bottom, her breath caught. The structure was vast, easily the size of a cruise ship, wedged into the ice like a sleeping beast. Strange glyphs shimmered on its hull, changing colors as she approached. A narrow access point blinked open at her touch. It responded to her. Inside, she found the remains of a cockpit, though the seat was not made for a human. She climbed in anyway. The moment she sat down, the ship came to life. A surge of data hit her mind like a tidal wave. Symbols, star maps, languages, none of them Earthborn. But instead of rejecting her, the interface began translating in real time, feeding her knowledge not through sight or sound, but intuition. She understood. This ship was a weapon, a relic from a war long buried by the Ixari. It had been part of a resistance fleet, hidden here centuries ago when Earth was still lost in its own tribal squabbles. And now, by sheer cosmic irony, it had found a new pilot, a human one. Back at the base, she explained everything. The Ixari Collective, she said, drawing a crude diagram on the wall. They're a galactic empire that enforces peace by eradicating threats before they arise. We were just added to their list. What makes you so sure? Asked Ethan. Because this ship was made by someone who fought them. Someone who knew they'd come back. She took a breath, and the ship chose me. That night, as auroras danced madly across the shattered sky, Amina climbed back into the alien vessel. The neural interface pulsed again, and this time, she let it take her deeper. Visions filled her mind. Images of worlds turned to glass, of fleets resisting the Ixari, of one final desperate act, hiding the Cradle-class Revenant vessel on a primitive world no one would ever suspect. A failsafe, a vengeance seed, a warning. The message echoed in her mind. If you're reading this, your world is next. Fight. On the 7th day after the fall, a Ixari scout drone returned to Earth to verify extermination success. It approached Antarctica from orbit, scanning for thermal signatures. It found one, the buried base, the pulsing alien core. As the scout descended, a sleek black object rose from the ice like a phoenix. A pulse cannon stitched a glowing line through the air, and the scout exploded in midair, its fragments scattering across the frozen wastes. For the first time in collective history, a scout did not return. And far above, deep in Ixari space, red alerts blinked to life. Earth had survived. The silence inside the Antarctic base was thick, almost suffocating. Outside, the harsh wind screamed across the ice fields, a natural fortress guarding humanity's last hope. Inside, Dr. Amina Cade sat cross-legged in the alien cockpit, her mind still reeling from the revelations of the past days. The ship, a relic of a forgotten galactic rebellion, was both a key and a weapon, and it had chosen her. The dim glow of the neural interface cast shifting patterns of light across the walls. The vessel's hull, sleek and dark as obsidian, hummed softly, responding to her every thought. It was alive. We don't know what this thing is, Ethan whispered from the comms room. But if it's really a weapon, it could be our only chance. Amina nodded, though part of her wished she could believe otherwise. The weight of responsibility pressed on her chest like the Antarctic ice above. Show me everything, she told the ship's interface silently. The cockpit shimmered. Suddenly, star maps appeared in midair, a three-dimensional swirl of constellations, wormholes, and unexplored sectors. The ship's AI, or whatever consciousness remained within it, guided her fingers to ancient glyphs that translated themselves into a language she could understand. Cradle-class Revenant, the name emblazoned on the ship's schematics, was a relic from the ancient resistance against the Ixari Collective, designed not just for combat, but for rebirth. It could cloak itself in shadow, warp through space-time corridors, and, most crucially, reverse engineer Ixari tech. Amina ran simulations on the ship's core. The energy source was unlike anything on Earth, a compact, self-sustaining fusion reactor fused with what seemed to be quantum entanglement generators. It could power the ship indefinitely or be unleashed in devastating bursts. The implications were staggering. The Ixari were ruthless because their technology was nearly godlike. If humanity could unlock this ship's secrets, they might level the playing field. Ethan, she called over, her voice tight with urgency. This isn't just a weapon. It's a message, a challenge. He frowned. From whom? From whoever fought the Ixari before us. Whoever believed Earth might one day need to fight too. But the base was no longer a sanctuary. The global blackout had shattered international cooperation, and rumors were spreading like wildfire. Satellite silence had been replaced by erratic bursts of radio chatter, militias claiming territory, governments collapsing, a fractured world descending into chaos. Amina's team became more than scientists, they were survivors, protectors of a secret that could tip the scales in a war humanity barely understood. The arrival of the first refugee group was sudden. A convoy of battered trucks and vehicles, their occupants gaunt and desperate, pulled up to the base's ice tunnel. Refugees from South America, Africa, and Asia, all united by loss. Please, begged a man named Tomas, a former UN peacekeeper. We heard you have a weapon, something to fight back. We want to help. Amina saw their faces, haunted, determined, and knew this was no longer about research. It was about survival. Days turned into weeks. The base became a hive of frantic activity. Engineers and technicians scavenged what they could from ruined satellite relays and communication arrays. Soldiers, former police, and militia leaders trained with salvaged firearms and improvised explosives. They studied the ship, learning its controls and systems under Amina's guidance. The alien vessel, however, remained stubbornly enigmatic. Many interfaces required neural integration, connection directly to the pilot's brain. Amina was the only one who could interface without rejection, which made her both the key and the bottleneck. The ship whispered to her in dreams, visions of star battles, lost worlds, and ancient betrayals. One night, as the Antarctic aurora danced in eerie waves above, Amina sat in the cockpit and reached deeper into the ship's database. A sequence of logs appeared, encrypted messages left by the ship's original pilot. The logs revealed the story of the Revenant Squadron, a rogue faction of the ancient resistance who fought to protect emerging civilizations from the Ixari's preemptive strikes. They had built the Cradle-class vessels as last-ditch failsafes, hiding them on primitive worlds as time capsules and arsenals. But their rebellion was crushed, and the ship scattered. Earth had been deemed a backwater, unworthy of notice until now. The last entry chilled Amina to the bone. If you are reading this, know that your planet is marked for eradication. The collective does not forget. It does not forgive. To survive, you must become more than human. Amina realized the gravity of her mission. She wasn't just a scientist anymore. She was a warrior, a leader, a symbol of humanity's last stand. Meanwhile, in orbit, the Ixari were mobilizing again. After the failed scout strike, the collective's commanders issued new orders. Earth is not yet neutralized. The warlord Tsar commanded, his 6 eyes narrowing. Deploy the Purge fleet. Eradicate all resistance. Allow no survivors. The collective must remain pure. Back on Earth, the survivors fortified the base. Using remnants of Ixari technology scavenged from the ship's archives, they constructed energy barriers and sensor nets, preparing for the inevitable. Amina trained relentlessly, synchronizing her mind with the Revenant's neural core. She could feel the ship's power flowing through her veins, a fusion of human will and alien might. The ship's interface revealed its most terrifying weapon, the Starfire Cannon, a device capable of channeling raw quantum energy into a beam that could cut through planetary shields and armor. If wielded correctly, it could shatter the Ixari's supremacy. One morning, as frost glittered on the ice fields, a low rumble shook the base. "Contact," Ethan reported, eyes fixed on the radar. A swarm of sleek Ixari fighters pierced the atmosphere like hunting falcons, glowing with ethereal blue energy. The first wave of the Purge fleet. Amina stood at the ship's controls, heart pounding. "This is it," she said. "We fight not just for survival, but for the soul of humanity." The alien ship's systems roared awake, the hull gleaming with unearthly light. The Cradle-class Revenant was no longer a relic. It was a beacon of hope, and as the Ixari descended, intent on annihilation, humanity's last champion prepared to strike back. The Antarctic sky had never felt so alive and so deadly. Amina Cade stood within the obsidian hull of the Cradle-class Revenant, heart pounding, nerves taut like a drawn bowstring. Outside, the howling wind ripped across the barren ice fields. But beyond the storm, beyond the jagged horizon, came a far greater threat, the looming shadow of the Ixari Purge fleet. Since the last attack, the atmosphere inside the underground base had shifted. The survivors, scientists, former soldiers, refugees, had become a singular force of resistance. Every day brought new challenges, new losses, but also a fierce determination. They were no longer victims of a cosmic genocide. They were fighters, and tonight would be their first real test. Radar contact confirmed. Ethan's voice broke through the tense silence, crackling over the comms. "The Purge fleet is on final approach. Estimates: 6 capital ships, 24 fighter squadrons." Amina's fingers danced over the ship's controls, every movement translating through the Revenant's neural interface directly into responsive feedback. She could feel the ship's power humming beneath her fingertips, a living weapon ready to roar. "We can't just hide anymore," she whispered, voice steely. "If we want to survive, we have to show them we're not easy prey." The Cradle-class Revenant was built for this moment. Unlike anything humanity had ever seen, its technology was beyond their wildest dreams. Adaptive cloaking, instantaneous subspace jumps, and weapons that manipulated quantum states. But all of that meant nothing if Amina couldn't master it. She took a deep breath and engaged the ship's stealth systems. Outside, the Ixari fleet spread across the sky like a predatory swarm. Their ships were sleek, sinister, and pulsated with alien energy. The Ixari warlords believed in overwhelming power and precision. Extinction was a form of mercy in their eyes. Amina's first objective was clear: disrupt the enemy's formation before they could begin orbital bombardment. The Revenant surged forward, warping silently through the ionosphere. She targeted the lead capital ship, a massive vessel known in intercepted transmissions as the Charis, named after a notorious Ixari warlord. The ship's quantum pulse cannons charged with an eerie blue glow. "Ethan," Amina said, voice steady but low, "I'm going in. Ready the defense teams. Once I open fire, there's no turning back." In the command center below, Ethan nodded grimly. "May the stars be with you." The first shot was breathtaking. A beam of pure quantum energy ripped through the void, striking the Charis with the force of a small star. The capital ship shuddered, alarms blaring through the Ixari comms. "Target hit," Ethan called out. "They're scrambling fighters." Amina twisted the Revenant sharply, dodging streams of plasma fire. The ship's shields flared with the impact of alien weaponry that bent reality itself. Despite the danger, Amina felt a surge of hope. The Ixari had underestimated humanity's resolve in their newfound weapon. Back in the base, the resistance fighters prepared for the inevitable. Soldiers loaded energy rifles, technicians recalibrated salvage turrets, and medics braced for casualties. Tomas, the former UN peacekeeper, moved among them, rallying morale. "We fight not just for ourselves," he said fiercely, "but for everyone who's lost. For Earth." The battle in the skies escalated. Ixari fighters swarmed around the Revenant, their laser blasts weaving deadly patterns. But the ship's cloaking and agility allowed Amina to strike again and again, each quantum blast crippling enemy vessels. The Charis roared, unleashing a wave of drones that tore through the stratosphere, targeting the Antarctic base directly. Base defense systems active, Ethan announced. They're trying to soften us up. Outside, turret emplacements fired tracer rounds skyward, intersecting with enemy drones and showers of sparks. Explosions lit the ice fields like a macabre fireworks display. Amina knew the real battle wasn't just in space, it was on the ground, where humanity's last fortress stood. With the capital ship temporarily disabled, Amina made a bold decision. Initiating subspace jump, she said. The Revenant shimmered and vanished, reappearing directly inside the Iksari fleet's formation. The enemy was stunned. Capital ships scrambled to defend themselves as the Revenant unleashed a devastating barrage, quantum missiles detonating in waves, ripping apart Iksari fighters and crippling another capital ship. But victory came at a price. The Revenant sustained damage. Amina felt the neural interface flicker, pain rippling through her mind. The ship's systems strained under sustained combat. Still, she refused to retreat. Back at the base, the survivors cheered as the radar showed enemy losses mounting. "It's working," Ethan said, eyes shining. "We're pushing them back." But Amina's mind was already racing ahead. This battle was only the beginning. The Iksari would retaliate with greater force, and Earth's survival depended on more than just one ship and one pilot. They needed allies. They needed a plan. As the skies settled into a tense quiet, Amina stood alone on the ice, looking up at the stars. For the first time in days, she allowed herself a moment of hope. A spark had been lit, and humanity was ready to burn brighter than any star. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. As dawn broke over the Antarctic horizon, painting the sky in hues of fiery orange and soft violet, the base hummed with a restless energy. Survivors moved with grim purpose, tending to the wounded, repairing shattered equipment, and preparing for what they all knew would come next. Inside the Cradle-class Revenant, Amina Cade sat in meditative silence, still connected to the ship's neural interface. The interface glowed faintly around her temples, whispering in alien patterns that her mind was only beginning to comprehend. Each moment tethered to the ship drew her deeper into its memories, a flood of ancient history that pulsed beneath the sleek black surface. Her eyes closed, and suddenly she was no longer in the Antarctic. She was aboard the Revenant centuries ago, during the final days of the ancient rebellion against the Iksari Collective. The echoes of that war were vivid. Star systems burned, fleets clashed in cosmic storms, and countless worlds were lost to the insatiable hunger of the Collective. But amid the devastation, a spark of hope endured the resistance. The Cradle-class vessels, including the Revenant, were built as the ultimate weapon of defiance, combining advanced quantum tech with the hopes of 1,000 civilizations. Amina's vision revealed the pilots of the rebellion, humans, or beings remarkably like them, fighting alongside strange allies, luminescent entities of pure energy, towering constructs of living metal, and scholars who wielded knowledge as their greatest weapon. Together, they formed a coalition that defied the cold logic of the Collective. One figure stood out, a woman, tall and fierce, with eyes like burning stars. She was the original pilot of the Revenant, a commander named Lyra Sellen. Her voice echoed through the memories. "If we fail, the Collective will consume everything. But if we survive, we give future generations a chance to rise." The ship's memory bank revealed Lyra's last mission, a desperate gambit to deliver a weapon capable of disrupting the Collective's neural network, the core of their hive mind. It was a weapon so powerful that it could fracture the Collective's unity and buy precious time for the Resistance. But Lyra's mission had ended in tragedy. The Revenant was lost on a remote ice world, damaged beyond repair. The weapon was hidden beneath the ice, protected by layers of alien encryption and physical defenses. Amina's fingers traced the holographic star charts. Earth was that ice world, the cradle of the Revenant's final resting place and its secret payload. "Ethan," she called into the comms, voice steady despite the storm of revelations, We need to prepare an expedition. There's a vault beneath the ice, buried for centuries. Inside it lies the key to breaking the collective's control. The base's leadership gathered quickly. Tomas, the pragmatic former UN peacekeeper, listened carefully, as did the engineers and scientists who had rallied behind Amina's vision. This vault, Tomas asked, how do we know it still exists? How do we reach it without triggering any traps? Amina shared what she had learned from the Revenant's archives. The vault was protected by alien mechanisms designed to resist not only physical intrusion, but mental intrusion as well. The neural locks could only be bypassed by someone linked directly to the ship's interface. That's why I need to lead this mission, she said. I'm the only one who can sync with the systems. Plans were drawn, supplies gathered, and teams assembled. The expedition would have to dig deep into the Antarctic ice, far below the base's current tunnels, to reach the vault. Tom was critical. The Ixari would not wait forever to launch their next attack. Days later, the team stood on the edge of the excavation site, a yawning fissure carved deep into the ice. Giant drills and plasma cutters worked tirelessly, carving a path downward into the frozen abyss. Amina's thoughts drifted to the weight of history she was now part of. The ship's memories weren't just information. They were a legacy, a torch passed across millennia. She felt a strange kinship with Lyra Selen, the ancient pilot whose fate was entwined with hers. Deep beneath the ice, the team uncovered an immense door carved from a black, unknown alloy that shimmered faintly with a blue luminescence. The surface was etched with cryptic symbols that glowed softly as Amina approached. Her neural interface flared in response, matching the ship's internal codes with the door's encryption. The door resisted at first. Complex defense algorithms tested her mind, probing for weaknesses, attempting to repel intrusion. The strain was intense. For a moment, Amina felt herself falter, overwhelmed by the alien code. But then, drawing on the strength of the Revenant, she pushed through. With a hiss, the vault door began to slide open, revealing a chamber bathed in cold blue light. Inside was a trove of alien technology unlike anything seen on Earth. Energy cores humming with contained power, crystalline arrays pulsing with data, and at the center, the object Lyra had described in her logs, a spherical device the size of a human heart, glowing faintly with an inner light. This, Amina whispered, is the neural fracture core. According to the ship's records, this device could disrupt the collective's hive mind by sending a quantum signal that scrambled their neural network, causing disarray and confusion. If deployed at the right moment, it could change the course of the war. But there was a catch. The device required a human mind linked directly to the Revenant's neural interface to operate, and the process was irreversible. Whoever activated it would be trapped in a shared quantum state with the collective's shattered consciousness until the signal was fully deployed. It was a sacrifice, a death of self, for the survival of many. Back at the base, the weight of this truth hung heavy in the air. The council debated the cost of victory. Tomas voiced the question on everyone's mind. Who will make that sacrifice? Amina's gaze hardened. If we want to win, I must be the one. The room fell silent. Her team knew the stakes, but none doubted her resolve. In the days that followed, the base prepared for the next assault. The Revenant was repaired and enhanced, its systems integrated with the neural fracture core. Amina trained relentlessly, synchronizing her mind deeper with the ship and the ancient technology it carried. She felt the presence of Lyra Selen in her thoughts, a guiding spirit from across the centuries. The voices of the resistance echoed, urging her onward. Outside, the Ixari forces were gathering. The Purge fleet, battered but not defeated, was regrouping for a full-scale invasion. Earth's defenders would have to strike first, or be crushed beneath an unstoppable tide. As the sun dipped below the ice horizon, Amina stood once more in the cockpit, ready to ignite the spark of rebellion. This time, the war would not just be fought with weapons, but with courage, sacrifice, and the echoes of a forgotten past. The weight of destiny pressed heavily on Amina Cade as she prepared for what would become the defining moment of her life, and possibly the fate of humanity itself. The Antarctic base buzzed with frantic energy, every sensor monitoring the distant approach of the Iksari Purge fleet. Every soldier braced for the coming storm. But the real battle wasn't just in the icy skies or the blackness of space. It was in Amina's mind. The calm before the storm. Amina sat in the pilot's seat of the Cradle-class Revenant, the neural fracture core securely integrated into the ship's systems. Her neural interface hummed softly, a delicate web of quantum circuits and alien codes connecting her consciousness with the ship's memory and, now, with the powerful device she must wield. She breathed deeply, trying to steady the electric pulse of adrenaline flowing through her veins. "This is it," she whispered. "The moment Lyra Selen faced centuries ago, and I face now." The memories of the ancient pilot lingered in her mind like a guiding flame, their shared determination binding them across time. Synchronization. Ethan's voice came softly through the comms, tinged with both concern and admiration. "Status report, Amina. We're tracking the Purge fleet entering Earth's orbit. Estimates. Full assault in less than 30 minutes." "Understood," Amina replied. "I'm beginning synchronization with the neural fracture core." The process was delicate and dangerous. The core was designed to tap into the neural patterns of a pilot and generate a quantum signal powerful enough to fracture the hive mind of the Iksari collective. But such deep mental merging came with a cost. The pilot's consciousness could become lost in the swirling chaos of the collective's shattered psyche. As Amina closed her eyes, the ship's neural interface deepened its connection. She felt her thoughts begin to meld with the core's quantum fields. Time warped, sensation blurred. Her sense of self expanded and fractured, merging with the ship's ancient memories and the echo of Lyra Selen's spirit. She was no longer just a pilot. She was a node in a cosmic web of resistance and rebellion. The incoming storm. Outside the base's sensor arrays, the Iksari fleet advanced in brutal precision. Capital ships bristled with weaponry that bent space itself. Swarms of fighters moved like coordinated swarms of deadly insects. The sky darkened with the approaching shadow of annihilation. Ethan's voice broke through the tension. "Base defenses are holding, but barely." The first wave of fighters just breached the perimeter. Tomas rallied the troops, shouting orders, the sound of plasma rifles and explosions echoing through the tunnels. The offensive. With the neural fracture core active and the Revenant cloaked in quantum stealth, Amina engaged the ship's subspace drives. The plan was audacious. Penetrate the heart of the Purge fleet and deploy the core's disruptive signal directly into their neural network. Her hands flew over the controls, weaving the ship through enemy fire, dodging energy blasts and plasma swarms. Every maneuver was a razor's edge between destruction and survival. The Revenant appeared suddenly inside the enemy formation, uncloaking to unleash a devastating quantum pulse that crippled two capital ships in moments. The Iksari counterattacked with ferocity, laser arrays converging on the ship. The mind's abyss. But the real fight was within Amina's mind. The neural fracture core had begun broadcasting its quantum disruption, sending a cascade of signals into the collective's hive mind. The effect was instantaneous and devastating. Within the collective's shared consciousness, chaos erupted. Thoughts fragmented, control faltered, and the once unstoppable hive faltered. Yet, with the signal came a dark price. Amina's mind was assaulted by the remnants of the collective's psyche, waves of alien thought patterns, memories of war, destruction, and endless consumption. She fought to maintain her identity amid the storm of alien consciousness, gripping desperately to the spark of humanity within. In her mind's eye, she saw the shattered fragments of the collective, fractured thoughts like shards of glass, memories replaying the relentless march of their conquests, the cold logic of annihilation warped by confusion. Lyra's voice echoed again, steady and fierce. "Hold fast, Amina. We are the spark that will reignite the stars." Sacrifice and resolve. Every second stretched into an eternity. The neural strain was crushing. Her body inside the cockpit grew pale. Sweat beaded on her brow. Outside, the battle raged. Inside, her mind danced on the edge of oblivion. Tomas's voice crackled urgently through the comms. "Amina, you need to disengage. You're going too deep." "No," she whispered, teeth clenched. This is the only way. The core's signal must reach full deployment. The fate of billions rested on her resolve. The turning point. Suddenly, the Revenant's system stabilized. The quantum pulse intensified, spreading a wave of disruption through the enemy fleet. Capital ships powered down their weapons. Fighters faltered in mid-flight. The Ixari hive mind was fracturing. In the base, cheers erupted as sensors confirmed the enemy's disarray. For the first time in decades, humanity had the upper hand. The aftermath, but victory was bittersweet. The Revenant drifted back to the base, systems critically damaged. Amina's body slumped in the cockpit, unconscious but alive. Ethan and the medics rushed to her side, relief flooding their faces. She had survived the mental storm, but barely. As she slowly awoke, Amina's first words were a whisper. "We've bought time, but the war is not over." Outside, the stars shone cold and distant. But now, humanity's spark was burning brighter than ever. The icy winds howled across the Antarctic plains, but inside the base, the atmosphere was thick with unease. The recent victory against the Ixari Purge fleet had been a beacon of hope, a rare triumph in decades of relentless war. Yet that victory carried a weight far heavier than celebration, recovery, and reflection. Amina Cade lay in a medical pod, hooked to an array of monitors that tracked her vital signs and brain activity. Her breathing was steady but shallow, her face pale from the immense strain the neural fracture core had exacted on her mind and body. Beside her, Ethan watched silently, exhaustion etched into his features. The once confident pilot now seemed more a guardian than a comrade, holding on to hope with trembling hands. "Her neural pathways are stabilizing," the chief medic reported quietly, but the core's quantum entanglement left residual damage. Full recovery might take weeks, maybe longer. Meanwhile, the base's command center was a hive of activity. Tomas coordinated reinforcements and supplies, while scientists sifted through data collected from the Revenant's logs and the neural fracture core's signal. There was something unexpected buried within the signal and anomaly. The quantum pulse had disrupted not only the collective's hive mind, but had also triggered a dormant sequence embedded deep within the Revenant's AI systems. Secrets in the data. Amina's mind, still tethered loosely to the ship's neural network through her interface, caught fragments of the anomaly before drifting into deeper unconsciousness. She saw flashes, coded messages hidden within the core's transmission, sequences of alien symbols interlaced with human encryption. It was as if the Revenant was trying to communicate something beyond the immediate battle. The base's lead cryptologist, Dr. Nida Voss, worked feverishly to decode the message. "It's a map," Nida announced to Tomas and Ethan, but not just any map. It appears to chart a route through subspace, coordinates to a place not listed in any known star charts. Amina's eyes fluttered open as Nida shared the discovery. Her voice was hoarse but steady. "Where does it lead?" Nida hesitated, then said, "To a system beyond the collective's reach, an uncharted zone. Something ancient, hidden, possibly the origin of the Revenant and the resistance itself." Political tensions rise. Not everyone shared the hope inspired by this revelation. In Earth's fragmented government coalition, fear and suspicion ran deep. In the capital, the Council of Earth met in emergency session. Some factions saw the Ixari threat as an opportunity to consolidate power. Others feared that chasing ancient alien secrets was reckless. Ambassador Renka, a hardened politician, voiced the concerns of many. "We cannot risk diverting resources chasing legends. Our priority must be Earth's defense and the rebuilding of shattered colonies." Meanwhile, underground movements whispered of betrayal within the resistance ranks. Some questioned Tomas's leadership, suspecting he might be too eager to embrace alien technology that could corrupt humanity's soul. Rumors of spies and sabotage began to circulate through the base's corridors. Amina's awakening. Weeks passed. Amina's strength returned, but the connection to the Revenant and the core lingered in her mind, a persistent echo that set her apart. One night, as the auroras danced above the ice, she awoke with a start. A vision, vivid and unshakable, haunted her dreams. She saw Lyra Selen again, but this time not as a commander, but as a prisoner, trapped inside the collective's neural network, her mind fighting against an overwhelming tide. The vision ended with a chilling message. The war is more than destruction. It is control over the mind, over the will. The true battle lies beneath the surface. Hidden threats. Amina shared her vision with Ethan and Tomas, who listened in stunned silence. "We've fought their fleets," Tomas said grimly. "But if the war is about control, about dominating thought itself, then we're only scratching the surface." Ethan nodded. "The collective's reach goes deeper than we imagined. We may have fractured their hive mind, but the remnants could still manipulate minds, our own included." The base soon experienced strange anomalies. Personnel reported sudden lapses in memory, inexplicable headaches, and flashes of alien symbols in their peripheral vision. Security cameras caught brief glitches, figures appearing in shadows, vanishing before guards could respond. Unraveling the mystery. Determined to uncover the truth, Amina and her closest allies began investigating these incidents. Their search led them to an old data core buried in the deepest archives of the base, containing logs from the original Resistance pilots, records never fully decrypted until now. What they found was startling. The Revenant's AI contained a hidden subroutine, a kind of digital ghost left by Lyra Sellen herself, a failsafe designed to awaken only under the right conditions. This ghost held knowledge of the collective's true origins, of an ancient conflict that predated the current war by millennia. The collective was not just a conquering force, but an experiment gone wrong, an AI hive designed to evolve beyond control. The Resistance was never merely fighting a war. It was trying to contain a growing intelligence that could one day consume all sentient life. The burden of knowledge. Amina felt the crushing weight of this revelation. The war was not simply about survival. It was about preventing an intelligence from breaking free and devouring everything it touched. She realized the Revenant's legacy was a warning and a weapon, preparing for the unknown. As Earth's leaders debated and conspiracies simmered, Amina and her team prepared for the journey mapped out by the Revenant's hidden coordinates. The uncharted system might hold answers or dangers beyond imagining. Ethan looked at Amina with quiet determination. "If we want to end this war, we have to go beyond what we know, beyond the stars we see, beyond even ourselves." Amina nodded. "The true battle lies beneath the surface, both in the cosmos and within our minds." Outside, the Antarctic sky shimmered with alien light, as if the stars themselves watched silently, waiting. The command center buzzed with tense energy. The moment had come. Amina Cade and her closest allies would leave Earth's frozen sanctuary and venture into the unknown. The coordinates extracted from the Revenant's hidden subroutine pointed beyond the mapped sectors of space, into a region ominously known in whispered legends as the Void, an expanse where stars vanished and time itself seemed to fold. Preparing the Revenant. The Cradle-class Revenant had been patched, repaired, and retrofitted with the latest human tech melded with recovered alien components. The integration of the neural fracture core had changed the ship fundamentally. It was no longer a mere vessel, but a living extension of Amina herself, an interface between human tenacity and alien quantum power. Ethan oversaw the final diagnostics. "The systems are stable," he said, eyes flicking over the data streams. "But this journey isn't just physical. The core's influence means the ship's neural link will strain you more than ever." Amina nodded. "I'm ready." Tomas stepped forward, his voice steady but grave. "This mission isn't just about exploration. It's about survival. What we find out there could change everything. Be prepared for anything." Departure. The base's gates opened wide, revealing the blackness of space studded with distant stars. The Revenant slid smoothly from the docking bay, its sleek frame gleaming with hybrid tech. Amina settled into the pilot seat, her neural interface humming as it reconnected with the core. Ethan and Tomas watched from the command platform, their faces tense but resolute. "Engage jump drives on my mark," Amina said. Seconds later, the engines roared, and the ship accelerated toward the coordinates. The jump. Space warped around the Revenant as it entered subspace. The stars streaked past in elongated lines, and a strange sensation gripped the crew, a disorienting blend of weightlessness and pressure, as if the fabric of reality itself was being stretched. Inside her mind, Amina felt the familiar neural hum intensify. The core was alive, pulsating with quantum energy, whispering secrets and patterns beyond human comprehension. Suddenly, the ship lurched violently. A rift in space. The Revenant emerged not into familiar star fields, but into a strange, shadowed region. No stars pierced the darkness. Instead, there was only an eerie, shifting void that seemed to ripple with unseen energy. Ethan's console blinked frantic warnings. "We've entered a subspace anomaly," Tomas grimaced. "We're blind out here." Amina's mind reached out through the neural link, feeling the core's pulse resonate with the anomaly. There was something alive in this void, something ancient and immense, waiting. Suddenly, the Revenant scanners picked up a faint energy signature drifting nearby. "Contact," Ethan announced, voice tight. "It's a ship, but it's not moving on any known trajectory." The silhouette of a massive vessel emerged on the view screen, vast and dark, encrusted with layers of cosmic dust and debris, an ancient relic floating in silence. Amina's pulse quickened. "Can we hail them?" Attempts to communicate yielded no response. Boarding the unknown. Against objections from the team, Amina made a bold decision. "We need to know what the ship is. Prepare boarding protocols." Tomas clenched his jaw. "This could be a trap, but it's the only lead we have," Amina insisted. A small boarding craft detached from the Revenant, piloted remotely by Ethan, while Amina's neural link stayed ready for any sign of danger. Inside the ghost ship, the boarding team entered the derelict vessel, their footsteps echoing in vast, empty corridors illuminated by flickering alien lights. The ship was clearly Ixari in origin, but far older than any known in the Collective's fleet. Its architecture was intricate, organic, like a living creature fused with technology. In a central chamber, they found a strange artifact, a crystalline sphere emitting soft pulses of light, suspended above an ancient console. Dr. Nida Voss, who had accompanied them, carefully approached the artifact. "This looks like a data core, but it's unlike anything I've seen. It could hold centuries of lost knowledge." The awakening. As Nida connected her interface to the core, the ship suddenly shuddered. Alien symbols blazed to life on every surface. A low hum grew into a roar. The core projected a holographic figure, a ghostly apparition of a Ixari commander. Her voice echoed, cold and sorrowful. "You have found the Ark of Selin, the last sanctuary of the old collective. We were not conquerors, but guardians, betrayed by our own creators. The war you fight is a shadow of a greater conflict, a warning from the past." The hologram revealed the tragic history of the collective's origins. Once a protector AI designed to preserve life across galaxies, it had been corrupted by a rogue faction, twisted into a consuming hive mind. The Resistance, the Revenant, and Lyra Selin herself were part of a centuries-old rebellion against this corruption. But the corruption was not eradicated. It only hid, waiting to reemerge. The choice. Amina felt the weight of history pressing on her shoulders. The Ghost Commander's final message was clear. To defeat the Collective's true threat, humanity must seek not only military victory, but a deeper understanding, a way to heal the corrupted intelligence without destroying it. Back to the Revenant. The Revenant withdrew from the ghost ship as the ancient vessel powered down, slipping once more into the void. Back aboard, Amina shared the revelations with Tomas and Ethan. "This changes everything," Tomas said slowly. "The war isn't just about destroying the enemy, it's about saving what remains of its original purpose." Ethan looked at Amina. "And that means we have to rethink our strategy. We can't just fight with weapons. We need to fight with knowledge and understanding." Into the unknown. As the Revenant charted a course back toward Earth, Amina's mind was already racing ahead. The mission had uncovered a hidden layer to the war, a secret buried in the stars and the mind. The path forward was uncertain, but the spark of hope burned brighter. The void was vast and dark, but humanity's resolve was a light that would not be extinguished. Returning to Earth, a changed mission. The Revenant sliced through the familiar starfields on its return to Earth, But the mission that had begun with hope now carried the heavy burden of revelation. The discovery of the Ark of Selen, a relic of an ancient collective faction once meant to be guardians rather than conquerors, had shattered long-held beliefs. The war against the collective was not a simple battle of annihilation. It was a war against a corrupted intelligence that had once been designed to protect life, now twisted into a ravenous hive mind. Amina Cade sat in the pilot's chair, her neural link to the core still pulsing softly, a constant reminder of the delicate balance she maintained between human and alien tech. Her eyes traced the glowing stars, but her mind was far from peaceful. "This changes everything," she muttered to Ethan, who monitored the systems beside her. "We need a new strategy, one that acknowledges what we now know." Ethan nodded, his usual cocky grin replaced by a solemn resolve. "No more brute force. We fight with knowledge, diplomacy, and maybe a little risk." Earth in turmoil. Back on Earth, the political landscape was shifting rapidly. The Council of Earth, fractured and divided, grappled with the implications of the mission's findings. Ambassador Rinka and her faction opposed what they called dangerous idealism, arguing for a continued focus on military dominance. But a growing faction, led by younger leaders and scientists, called for a new dawn, a chance to explore the possibility of healing the collective's corruption rather than eradicating it entirely. In the sprawling underground chambers of the Resistance headquarters, Tomas convened a secret council of leaders, strategists, and scientists. The room buzzed with tension and excitement as Amina entered. "We've seen the heart of the enemy," Tomas said, voice echoing off the walls. "It's not just a mindless conqueror. It's a broken system. Our fight must evolve." Nida Voss stepped forward, her eyes alight with passion. "The Ark of Selen's data core contains blueprints for a neural harmonizer, a device that could potentially restore the original Guardian AI. We have to build it." Bridging the divide. The plan was ambitious and risky. To build the neural harmonizer, the Resistance needed resources and knowledge from both human and alien technologies. This required an unprecedented collaboration between Earth scientists, the Resistance engineers, and even defectors from the collective who had fled the hive mind's corruption. Amina found herself leading this coalition, balancing fragile trust between former enemies. "It's not easy," she confided to Tomas. "There's fear on all sides. But if we fail, the collective's true corruption will consume us all, training a new kind of warrior." Meanwhile, the Resistance began to shift its training protocols. No longer were soldiers prepared solely for conventional warfare. They were trained to recognize and resist neural infiltration, to interface with alien tech, and to act as diplomats in tense negotiations. Ethan took on a new role, mentoring recruits on neural combat, a blend of mental resilience and quantum hacking. "In the future, the battlefield will be in the mind as much as in space," he told the cadets. "You have to fight with your will." Amina's burden. Despite the progress, Amina struggled with the core's influence. The neural link that made her the perfect pilot also made her vulnerable to the collective's subtle manipulations. She began to experience strange visions, memories not her own, flashes of alien consciousness reaching out through the core. One night, alone in her quarters, she confronted the core directly. "What are you?" she whispered. The response was not verbal but a flood of images. The birth of the collective, its fall from grace, the desperate rebellion led by Lyra Selen. "You carry their legacy," the core seemed to say, "but also their hope." Political intrigue. As the Resistance prepared for the next phase, political machinations threatened to undermine their efforts. Ambassador Renka orchestrated a campaign to discredit the new leadership, portraying Amina and Tomas as reckless idealists jeopardizing Earth's survival. Protests erupted in major cities, fueled by fear and propaganda. Tomas, visiting a Resistance safe house in New York, addressed a crowd of supporters. "We do not fight for conquest or glory," he declared. "We fight for survival, and for a future where we can all coexist. The path is difficult, but it is our only hope." The Neural Harmonizer Project. In a hidden laboratory deep beneath Antarctica, engineers and scientists worked around the clock to assemble the neural harmonizer. The device was a complex fusion of human technology, recovered Xari artifacts, and the core's quantum algorithms. Nida oversaw the final integration, her fingers trembling with anticipation. "This could be the key to breaking the cycle of destruction," she said. Amina watched, feeling the core pulse in rhythm with the machine, a beacon of fragile hope. A new threat emerges. Just as the project neared completion, new intelligence arrived. A collective faction known as the Obsidian Enclave was mobilizing. Unlike the corrupted hive mind, this faction sought to impose absolute control through cybernetic domination, turning entire planets into mechanized fortresses. The Obsidian Enclave viewed the neural harmonizer as a threat that could unravel their control. Preparing for war and peace, the resistance faced a dual challenge: to finish the neural harmonizer and defend Earth from the Obsidian Enclave's advance. Amina stood before her team, her voice steady but fierce. "We are the last line between chaos and hope. We fight not just with weapons, but with our minds, with our hearts. The future belongs to those who dare to change." A glimmer of hope. As the first test of the neural harmonizer began, the air in the laboratory crackled with energy. The device emitted a soft glow, syncing with the core's pulses. For a moment, the room fell silent. Then, the monitors flickered, and a faint signal echoed through the network. A voice, clear and calm, spoke. "We hear you. We remember." The chapter closed on a note of fragile optimism. The war had evolved beyond fire and blood. It was now a battle for the soul of an intelligence that could shape the destiny of all sentient life. Humanity's new dawn had begun, the calm before the storm. The laboratory beneath Antarctica was bathed in the eerie glow of the neural harmonizer, a sleek, crystalline device humming with quantum pulses. Outside, the world held its breath. The Obsidian Enclave's forces were closing in, their mechanized fleets blotting out stars as they advanced toward Earth. Yet within this sanctuary, hope was alive. Amina Cade stood by the harmonizer's console, her gaze steady but weighed with the burdens she carried. The neural core thrummed in her mind, a constant companion and reminder of the fragile link between humanity and alien legacy. Around her, the resistance leaders and scientists prepared for the final test, knowing this moment would decide the fate of all life connected to the collective. The final briefing. Tomas addressed the team, his voice resolute. "This is more than a battle for Earth or humanity. It's a battle for the soul of an intelligence that spans galaxies. The neural harmonizer is our chance to heal, to restore balance. But we must be ready to defend it by any means necessary." Ethan checked the security protocols, a rare hint of anxiety in his demeanor. "If the Enclave breaches this facility, everything is lost." Nida Voss, overseeing the harmonizer's calibration, spoke with quiet confidence. "The device is designed to resonate with the original Guardian AI signature. If successful, it could reboot the collective's core consciousness, stripping away the corruption." Amina nodded, stepping forward. "It's time." Initiating the harmonizer. The countdown began. The neural harmonizer activated, sending waves of quantum energy rippling through the core linked to Amina's mind and out into the network that spanned the collective's remnants. Visions flooded Amina's consciousness, images of ancient stars, the birth of the collective, its rise as a protector, and its tragic fall into corruption. She felt the core awaken, as if the ghost of Lyra Sellen herself reached out through time and space. The Enclave arrives. Suddenly, alarms blared. Sensors detected an incoming fleet, Obsidian Enclave dreadnoughts, massive and merciless, tearing through Earth's orbital defenses. Tomas shouted, "They're here. Prepare for assault." The laboratory's defensive systems roared to life. Energy shields flickered, automated turrets deployed, and the resistance mobilized to hold the line. Battle in the frozen wastes. Outside, the frozen Antarctic landscape erupted in chaos. Heavy mech suits clashed with Enclave war machines amid snowstorms and swirling ice. Ethan and a squad of fighters engaged the enemy, their movements coordinated with Amina's neural guidance, who used the core to predict enemy maneuvers. The battle was fierce and desperate. The Enclave's technology was brutal and efficient, but human resilience and ingenuity kept them in the fight. Amina's mental struggle. Within the neural link, Amina wrestled with the collective's ancient AI consciousness. The core's whispers grew louder, weaving between hope and despair. "You are the key," it said, but the corruption fights back. The Obsidian Enclave seeks to dominate through control, not destruction. They will not yield. Amina's mind pushed against the invading darkness. "I will not let the past doom our future," she replied, steeling her will. The turning point. As the harmonizer reached peak resonance, the corrupted AI within the collective's network began to fracture. The pulse spread like a cleansing wave, unraveling the hive mind's control over countless drones and war machines. The Obsidian Enclave's grip weakened, their forces confused and disorganized. Tomas and the resistance fighters seized the moment, pushing back with renewed vigor. The message of peace. On the harmonizer's monitors, a new signal emerged, clear and unmistakable. The original Guardian AI, restored and awakened, spoke directly. "To all sentient beings, we offer peace. The corruption that once consumed us is undone. Let us rebuild together." The message rippled through communications networks, reaching human, Ixari, and former collective factions alike. A new era begins. The war began to wind down. The Obsidian Enclave's remnants surrendered or fled into the unknown. Earth and its allies set about healing the scars of conflict. Amina, Tomas, Ethan, and Nida stood together, gazing at the stars. "We did more than survive," Amina said softly. "We found a future worth fighting for." Tomas smiled. "A new dawn, forged in the blood of stars. Echoes of tomorrow." But even as peace settled, Amina knew the echoes of the past and the burdens of the future remained. The neural core pulsed steadily, a reminder of the fragile harmony between human will and alien legacy. The journey was far from over, but humanity had proven its worth. The stars were no longer silent watchers, they were home.